January 24th, 2004, Timothy Stansberry, Brooklyn, New York, unarmed. 2006, Sean Bell, Queens, New York, unarmed. January 29th, 2010, Aaron Campbell, Portland, Oregon, unarmed. 2014, Eric Garner, Staten Island, New York, unarmed.
The rant I will be presenting today pertains to the rampage abuse of power by police officers who are otherwise trained to uphold the law and protect American citizens. Now, what is police abuse power? To some people, when police abuse their power, it may not mean much at all and seem very distant, which is only read about in the newspaper, seen on TV, or viewed on the internet. But to others, especially those who have been directly impacted by such abuses, it can be a dramatic and life-changing event resulting in permanent damage both physically and psychologically, as well as mistrust with the police officers. Now, to start off my rant, it is our First Amendment right, that is, a form of free speech, to phone the police in public. But yet, as many times, citizens are ordered by law enforcement that they do not have the right to phone the police at the site of a possible crime scene. America, if we can't keep an eye on the police, whether it is for a heroic act or if they exceed their police power, how can we keep them accountable to the people they are sworn to serve and protect? We need an end to this antiquated East Germany-like infringement on our constitutional right to free speech. You can film the police in public. Almost every day in America, in some part of this country, police exceed their authority, which in many instances result in brutally to law-abiding citizens. Every day in America, police get away with these actions that should be punishable. White Americans were shocked at what they saw police doing to Rodney King. Likewise, the African American community was stunned at what the police did to Rodney King, especially in an open public area in full view of the general public. There's a similar Rodney King occurrence every day in this country, which sadly is happening more frequently and continues to remain unchecked. African Americans have known this legal practice has existed for a long time, as such practices happen often in less affluent neighborhoods. Everything those cops did to Rodney King happens to other communities around this country, but the only difference is that there are no videotapes running to verify these horrible abuses of power. We hear stories of people say they were beaten, thrown to the ground, or abused however, since there are no recordings. People always side with the police and assume that individuals are exaggerating what happened to them. Even though there are no videotapes, these police officers did in fact do these discipline acts, and they have gotten away with it. They know they are assault and battery and will not be reported to their superiors, and in some instances, these police departments just turn their heads and ignore the complaints. Their department will allow them to commit and not hold the officers accountable. These officers do it because they can. They do it because they know they'll get away with it. None of the good police officers will cross the line and report the bad officers for fear of being disciplined. The lack of action by police departments means that none of them will ever be criminally charged and face jail time or being suspended from the police force. If a police department does, by some miracle and by some chance, discipline anyone for what happened without any videotapes being used as support for the abuse of power, I will rewrite my mistaken presumption that police officers who abuse their power are disciplined to the fullest extent of the law.
Graber was riding his motorcycle on I-95, taping the experience with a helmet-mounted camera. The first officer that approached Graber did so with gun drawn and badge not visible. For the first 4 seconds of this encounter, it looks like a carjacking.
Get off the motorcycle! Get off the motorcycle, state police! Excuse me. Put your hands up.
On another level, it's troubling because citizens have a constitutional right to record the activities of public officials.
Since the Rodney King video was caught on an amateur video camera, American police officers have known video cameras are their worst enemies. They will do anything they can to stop you from legally videotaping how they handle their responsibility to serve and protect you.
Now, after listening to my presentation, I hope that you understand my main concerns about police officers and how they need to be videotaped while on duty. Like it said in the last picture, if you see something, film something. Film the police. You might save an innocent person from going to jail. This statement is 100% true. With all of the videos I've shown you, in each statement, in each instance, the police officers were all recorded by either a cell phone, camera, in a police vehicle, stoplight, and etc. Now, if you're wondering about who the man I was giving examples about in my presentation, here's a short video that explains his strategy and what happened when he was confronted by police officers. His name is Rodney King.
Someone hadn't picked up his home video camera. We've all seen the pictures of Los Angeles police officers beating a man they had just pulled over. The city's police chief said today he will support criminal charges against some of the men. Here's ABC's Gary Shepard.
The three police officers facing felony criminal charges were among a group of 15 who stopped a 25-year-old black man last Saturday night, then beat him, kicked him, and clubbed him, unaware that an amateur photographer was recording the incident on videotape. Los Angeles Police Chief Daryl Gates looked at the tape and said he thinks assault with a deadly weapon will be one of the charges.
In our review, we find that the officers struck him with batons between 53 and 56 times. One officer rendered 6 kicks and one officer 1 kick.
Civil rights organizations say the Los Angeles Police Department has a history of brutality and misconduct that goes back a quarter of a century, including one incident that sparked the Watts riots. So far this year, there have been more than 125 complaints of police misconduct filed with watchdog organizations.
We no longer want to have to wake up each morning not knowing what fear to expect next. Today, we are not sure that the police is there to protect us.
But Chief Gates today called the LAPD a model department and said he has no plans to resign.
After seeing that video, it gives you a brief explanation why there is tension with African Americans, as well as distrust and frustration with police because they feel as though they are being targeted. For example, if there was an officer walking down a sidewalk in an all-white neighborhood and he saw 2 males wearing hoodies, one an African American and the other a Caucasian, I would almost guarantee that the officer would approach the African American to see if he had any weapons or drugs on him. This is considered racial profile. If you think this example is impossible and highly unlikely, would it seem too crazy to think that the police officers would focus on an African male on a public sidewalk in broad daylight selling cigarettes that would result in a complete abuse of power and a beating and eventual death of that person? Such examples are why so many African Americans today distrust law enforcement, because they feel that all the other races are not treated equally, but instead focused on one's ethnicity. America, in order to fix this solution, we need to videotape police officers so that they cannot make up excuses or deny what they did. Then they will have to accept the criminal charges that they are faced with the full extent of the law. Videotaping police officers will not completely stop their abuse of power and racial profiling, but it will force those certain individuals to think twice before they violate a person's constitutional rights. One race only.